Welcome back to Beyond the Plan. Today's episode is a special one for me. I got to sit down with Steve McEwan, myHSA's co-founder and one of my own mentors, for one of the most honest conversations we've had about the early days, what his life might have looked like if he had stayed an advisor, and the decisions that shaped everything from day one. We also got his best advice for advisors on how to position myHSA today. I loved this conversation, and I'm excited to share it with you. The first thing I wanted to start with was yesterday when we were sitting here setting up, Haley was putting up the lights and everything. You walked in and you were struck with nostalgia. And I want to know what that feeling was when you walked in and saw. You said it feels like the old office. It feels like the old days. What's that?
Yeah, I mean, I think people might have seen pictures on it. I don't know if we have shared any pictures or anything. But back in the day, we were all holed up in a tiny little house office. And we had a little couch area like this, kind of not this nice, obviously. And that's where we used to have all of our team meetings. It was our boardroom, our hangout lounge, and it was everything. So I've seen a few old pictures of the team, and this was kind of like ladies that now have, I guess, like 10-year-old kids were pregnant in some of the pictures. Everyone was a little bit more younger, maybe a little fresher, myself included. And it's awesome. So like this kind of setup here, it reminded me of the old boardroom.
The old days. Yeah, that's a really cool. And everybody grew up. Everyone who started at myHSA kind of grew up here, like to your point. A lot of the OGs, they call them, are still here, which is really cool. So now that I've put you back in that headspace of the start of myHSA, what was the biggest challenge that you faced at that time?
I know personally, when Tim and I decided to kind of like jump off the ledge with myHSA, I was obviously probably, I guess, 15 years younger. And when we went out on our own, my firstborn, who's now 12, everyone knows Charlie here. He was just born when we basically like launched the business. So my wife Jill will appreciate this. Like before, as she was pregnant and we were about to launch the business, at one point I was laying on the floor having what I think is like a panic attack.
Oh no.
Knowing that I was about to like jump off the ledge. So for me, it was like personally very challenging because it was very scary. No guaranteed income, a new young baby on the way. That stuff was super scary, but I never kind of doubted it for 1 second either. So it was like kind of part of the process, but that was the toughest part going into it for sure.
Why didn't you doubt it?
Like for me personally, and Tim will know this because I actually had a couple too many drinks one time at a Christmas party before when I was his employee, and I told him I wanted to be part owner of that business. So for me, I always wanted to own my own business. I just didn't know what it would be in. So the night that Tim kind of proposed doing myHSA for our business together, I was all in immediately, and I had never kind of like second guessed that ever. There was even a few times where I remember we didn't know if we'd make it. Like it's a very kind of like get rich slow business, what we realized. And there was multiple times along the way where we didn't know if we'd make it, but I would leave that shitty little office and be like, I wouldn't trade this in for anything in the world. Like it was not even about the money at that point, because there wasn't much of it. It was awesome. Like it was so fulfilling that I'm like, oh, this is the right decision no matter what happens. Like I absolutely loved it, even when it was tough.
So was the opportunity at the time obvious, or was it like revealing itself over time? Like, did you guys go in and go, I know people are going to want this. I know that the product is going to be good and people are going to really want this later on, or was it?
Absolutely not obvious, because so even when Tim proposed the original idea, his kind of epiphany one night out at a conference was actually to take the concept of spending accounts and go to small town advisors, um, and just use that as the distribution network. So we actually didn't think that large city, bigger advisors would actually want to like lean in and sell HSAs. So it was like, and again, every small town that you drive through, our example was Western Insurance. So like every small town has like a Western Insurance advisor. So we were going to go through those advisors. We would have been so dead if we would have done that. But that was the original concept. And then because HSAs in general are small, you need a lot of them. Like anyone who knows about scaling a business, small revenue and you need a lot of them is a very like bad business.
Yeah.
And that's why it's like a get rich slow, because that model is super scary. Like most people, you'd never get VC money for it. It really takes, like, you have to stick with it long enough. And that's what we did. So like the first 5 years, it was brutal. Like, because again, the path to get to like significant revenue is so many clients and so many advisors that it was daunting to begin with. But then we would always hang on this thread like, well, all we need is this many advisors with this many accounts, and enough advisors were kind of open to the idea that we always had that momentum going.
Mm-hmm.
And then the running joke was when we talked about closing it down a few times, I was like, Tim, like, I have to manage these things. Like, even if we said the business is over, there's clients with spending accounts.
Yeah.
Like, they have to go somewhere.
Yeah.
So I'm like handcuffed with this thing anyways. So it was like, we both realized that it had to live on somewhat because we actually had clients who needed the spending accounts.
But you were a licensed advisor. What would have happened if you had taken that route? You always say that you could have, you would feel content taking that route.
Yeah.
Where would you be now if you had done that, do you think?
So, and again, it sounds weird, but it's the truth, is I didn't really want to get out of being a group benefits advisor. Like, I really liked it, but we knew that, and we've seen other companies in the past kind of, they'll start something like a myHSA and be an advisor as like a side business. And like, I'd credit Tim to this because he was very much, pushing the idea that you're either in or you're out. So we knew that it was kind of like we had to give up that whole side of the business, or I had to give up being a group benefit advisors and go all in on just doing my HSA. But I never really wanted to get out of it. But I actually think it ended up being a little bit of like my superpower for my HSA. Because I still do, is I think like an advisor, and I think of like the conversations with clients, employees, that sort of thing. You guys have taken it and, like 100x times that, like, customer service, but I still generally think like that. So I always had a backup plan because, again, new baby on the way. I kept my license. I'm still licensed today as a just in case, like a parachute. And I had a plan all along. I finished my SEEBS designation while I was at my HSA because I'm like, if I ever get a job, like, I need to be licensed and I need this designation.
Building your own like polio back here.
To the point where I actually knew as we started to meet like some really cool advisors, I always knew which advising firm I would actually go and work for. Jen Kirby, Vital Part.
I was gonna say, am I allowed to ask?
Yeah.
There you go.
I've told her that multiple times. Like, I had coffee with her a couple weeks ago and I was like, just so you guys know, you were my backup plan.
That's awesome.
And she's like, darn, like, you would have been a good advisor.
The one that got away.
Yeah. So like
too late.
Yeah. So like I've always liked the industry. I actually found over the years like missing that client interaction. So like even going in front of like plan admin demos and stuff, like especially in person, it's like, like I miss that. I still kind of miss that.
Something that I've been thinking about a lot lately is that with an HSA right now, it seems the crux is explaining it to people in a way they understand if they've only ever seen the traditional benefits model. So let's pretend you're an advisor right now and you have a client How do you explain to them what an HSA is and why they need one?
Yeah, so usually, and again, like I do this at parties with people that
You
are,
do this at parties?
yeah, if they're their own corporation, right? Like, which you find everywhere, especially in Alberta, because a lot of people are contractors or consultants for oil and gas, or uh, the chiropractor who's their own numbered co. Um, but it's like the biggest no-brainer that I always tell people. And usually business people are used to the idea of like, I try and run as much of my life through my business so I can get the write-offs.
Yeah.
Like that's a tax game that's played. Everyone who owns their business knows that game. So this is just an extension of that. So it's like you write off your vehicle through your corp because it's used for work. You can essentially, all of your health and dental expenses, you can write it off through your company via an HSA. And then usually the argument is like, well, I want insurance or I can't get insurance. And it's like, you don't need insurance. You can essentially self-insure and write off your family's medical expenses through your company. That alone is usually like, huh, interesting. And the best part about it, like, when you've got them is they're like, oh, no one's ever told me that before. Meaning
Right.
no accountant, maybe they have an insurance advisor. Like that usually to me when I was an advisor is like, oh, bingo, I got them.
Mm-hmm.
Because the minute they say like, no one's ever told me that before,
Yeah.
I'm now the subject matter expert and I've got them.
To that point, what are advisors missing right now? What do they need to have in order to drive that home?
Yeah, the biggest thing I find still to this day, which is why I'm like very bullish on my HSA's journey going forward, is it's not one or the other. So like still people are like, oh, I either need insurance, like an insurance plan, like a chamber plan, a chiropractors association plan, or an HSA. And it's like, no, 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 no. You can have both. Because for the business owner, they might want the insurance plan for themselves or maybe their employees, but they should be covered above and beyond that for as much of their family needs as reasonable with CRA. Um, and then if they ever find a situation where they don't like paying for the insurance, maybe they don't use it enough, the premiums have gone up, then you can use it as like a lever where you can have more of an HSA, less insurance, to the point where some people just hate insurance companies, which we totally get because we're not insurance companies. You don't have to have insurance and just go a spending account. Or you can have more insurance and have a smaller spending account. But
Yeah.
there is not a situation that I've ever heard of for a small business in Canada to not have some sort of HSA, at least for the business owners that are active in the business.
Right. Yeah.
There's some caveats to that.
There are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's right.
Which you know.
So what if it's a large client?
So if again, large client to me is just a different form of a spending account. So what we found here, which it's always been the case, is a larger client will want to be looking more towards like wellness spending accounts or flex plans. Um, Probably rely less on just an HSA. But the thing that I think we've been good at this company is like, we know where we fit in and we know we're not kind of necessarily top of everyone's mind.
Yep.
A large group would be exactly that case where we're like, we know that a lot of your focus is on this big insured plan, super complex, super detailed, but there's this like icing on the cake that can be so good called a wellness account.
Yeah.
That like we've seen big success there. So like a large group advisor, they should be thinking about HSAs in a different manner. So the opportunity that we've always seen is whether you're a small advisor, whether you focus on individual insurance, or you're an advisor that deals with large groups, like there's something for everyone there.
Yeah.
And that's why our market is so much bigger than like a lot of other insurtech platforms out there, because we swim in all those different pools.
Yeah.
There's opportunities because in all of them, because either an advisor focused on individual or smaller groups, you're dealing with business owners and
Yeah.
they're the ideal client everywhere. they could use an HSA, large complex group. Okay, it looks a little bit different. It's a WSA, but it's there for sure.
Something that I've also been thinking about is that when you're educating someone on a spending account, sometimes you have to actually dismantle preconceived notions about traditional insurance and things like that, and then explain to them how an HSA or a WSA works. What is the biggest misconception about spending accounts?
It's like a blessing and a curse because these have been around since the 80s, but traditionally the insurance market has used them as a throw-in to a traditional plan, where our biggest challenge for the last 10, 15 years, I would say, is that we're saying it's not a throw-in, it's its own part of a benefit plan, where you want to give it attention because when people utilize it, they love it. Like that's our experience, especially if the platform is good and the experience is good. The employees love it. So then it's kind of like that satisfaction goes back up through the plan administrator to the advisor. They're getting compensated now. Traditionally, they're not compensated on spending accounts with carriers. And then there's kind of like a lot of love for myHSA, which is why we've been able to grow. So it's kind of just reframing this product because it's been around for a while into kind of like bringing it up to the spotlight a bit.
Yeah.
But also kind of saying, we know we're not your main breadwinner in like the benefits revenue, like kind of like the benefits wallet space for an advisor. So we kind of like know where we are at the party and we play that role extremely well, where we're like, we know we're not like the main event. We're like the fun party uncle in the corner.
Yeah.
It's easy to talk to.
Of course. Of course we are. And with an HSA too, I think an important thing to bring up is that with insurance, especially at the end of the year, people don't want everyone using insurance because they don't want to drive up premiums. Why should people be okay with their employees using an HSA?
So when we were advisors, and again, I keep referring to Tim because he would smile because it's like he would know about this conversation, is it's like 70% utilization. And we've always maintained this too. And I still believe that a spending account, if you can get it to 70% utilization, it's like win-win-win. It means it's being used enough that employees see value in it. Because if employees don't see value in a benefit, then your first kind of like move is to get rid of it. Why would you pay for something that's not being used? So the employees value it. 70% though typically means from a plan administrators, which also makes the advisor's conversation easier, is they go, oh, it looks like you're saving 30%. So there's a little bit of a savings win there. So they're like, okay, it's not 100%, it's 70.
Yeah.
So there's like 30% savings. This is awesome. And because we only pay for what they use, right? With the way we set up a spending account, it's very efficient that way. So they're not overpaying for something. So like they want people to use it enough, but not too much. Otherwise, to be honest, if you're an advisor, you'd start to go, should we just insure this risk versus self-insuring it? So like 70% is always like
That's like a
ideal.
golden number.
It's a golden
A
number.
win-win-win
Yeah.
for everyone.
Yeah, if it's 90, 95, you start going, maybe we should just go buy insurance and give the risk to a third party,
Right.
like an insurance carrier. So 70 is key.
So if an advisor has a client that's hitting 30, 40% utilization, how do they drive that utilization up to 70?
And that's where, like, again, like our team would be able to help them. And it's more of a education session somehow. But you need the plan administrator and the advisor on board because these things are so flexible that there's something truly for everyone, but the list is so broad that you need to be able to like show value to each employee in some way. And right, with privacy and stuff like that, you can't necessarily divulge too much information.
Right.
So it's kind of like that's the fine balance of like, how do you educate the employees and the plan administrators without, being too forceful? Because what we don't want to be, which we know about, is like the end of the year benefit signs that like dentists and chiropractors, like,
They're up right now.
yeah, they're up
Well,
right now.
it's
'Cause
November.
exactly. So you don't want to say, hey, you use it or lose it type thing benefit. So it's like it's a dance, right? Like you want to educate, but you don't want to kind of be too forceful.
Yeah.
Because employers view it as you're spending their money. They want the employees to use it and find value, but they don't want to abuse it. Like you of all people, you know that it's like a fine dance and you
Yes.
can't overdo it.
Yeah.
So like I love where we've kind of like taken it with the education piece, but not forceful.
What are you most excited about for the next 5 to 10 years in this space?
So it's a lot of the same things. I feel like employees' needs haven't changed, but the landscape or the opportunity to meet those needs is the most exciting part. The other thing too that I think is super relevant and exciting for me is kind of like on the financial side. Um, like I think people are really stressed out about financial needs. So the opportunity there, the exciting part is there a way for large groups all the way down to small groups to kind of solve that problem, to meet the needs for certain groups within organization? And it's definitely not a one size fits all, which totally leans into like, even when we were founded 10 years ago, we were leaning into that. So it's kind of like the same needs are out there that can be met.
Right.
Um, and to me, that's exciting.
Yeah, that is exciting. And I do think to your point, there's a lot of people out there that are dealing with really heavy things. And something that else that's changing that I'm excited about is that those communications are more honest. And something that you and Tim did really well is if someone came to you and said, my family's going through this, or I need help with this, you tried to shape the benefit package around helping people with that, whether it was spoken or not.
Yeah.
How can other employers practice that?
Yeah. And I think that's like a company culture thing, right? To have a space that feels safe enough where your employees can come to you and say like, hey, I'm dealing with this. And then as an employer, it's actually like, for us anyways, it's a very rewarding thing where you can be like, oh, let us help you. Because it's like kind of, it's not a conversation where you're like, oh, we got to figure out ways not to help you. We're just like, oh, we could do this, we could do that. You know, it's how can we help you? But I think it starts with having those conversations. And I feel like it's changing so that even like other workplaces are having those conversations. But to me, it's all culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like you have to create a safe space that when it comes up, it's no question that you would feel comfortable going to your employer and talking about it.
Yeah. And I always like, again, Tim and I have talked about it, but it's like, if you want to create loyalty, help someone out when they need it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like a no brainer.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
and it feels good. Like it's almost selfish, right? Where you're like, oh, they're going through some stuff. How can we help them? If we can put something in place that helps them through the company,
Yeah.
then like selfishly you feel good too.
Yeah.
So, and then
Absolutely.
it creates loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
It builds culture.
Yeah. And we've had clients come to us in similar situations where they say, I have a group of employees that have come to us and asked for this. How can a spending account be used for that? And I think that another misconception is people don't realize that just because it's not HSA eligible doesn't mean you can't build a WSA and give someone the support they need there too. So it's really cool that there's so much flexibility around helping an employee.
Yeah. And like we talk about it, it's probably like one of the other big misconception is around WSA. Because
Yeah.
it's like it can be anything. And for us anyways, you can customize it. So it's kind of like it allows like a plan administrator or company to be like super creative, which is almost a hard thing to get
Yeah.
out there,
Yeah.
if you know what I mean. Like we've always struggled with it because it's like, no, you can create whatever you want it to look like
Mm-hmm.
with the guardrails on like amounts and how they access the program and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be one size fits all. So it doesn't have to be that all employees get classed out like they do with an HSA. With a WSA, you can say, this person's running a marathon and I want to pay their marathon
Yeah.
fees. I'm putting that amount in and then it's paid for
Yeah.
because it's taxable.
Yeah. And I think you've brought it up multiple times too, which is like you really don't realize how much stuff the employees are going through that you have no idea. So it's like you might assume that everything's hunky-dory in a company where it's like you have no idea who's, could be edging towards a divorce, having family planning issues, money's tight, their spouse loses a job. It's like, so it's almost a better approach to assume that someone's in need and how can you help? Um, so I always think that's like an exciting,
Yeah.
like it's an exciting opportunity, although it's like, real's the problem. Like it's for real, like these are serious problems.
Yeah.
But I don't know, at least I like leaning into that side of things and then you can provide solutions.
Well, and I like what you said about assuming there's probably someone in your workforce, because you'll have people who are comfortable advocating for themselves or coming to you with a problem, but you might have other people that aren't comfortable or are going through something so big, so much bigger than what they are willing to divulge, that just assuming and trying to build a benefits package based on any scenario that you can think of is, I
Well,
like that.
and I do think like, again, like to go back beyond, it's not even a benefits thing, it's a culture thing where the reality that's been very helpful for us, I'm sure you're seeing it now, is like, if they feel safe to come to you, it's like, yeah, you can help with some benefits stuff for sure, but it's like more the protection you can put around them to be like, oh, if they're short with a client, well, now you know
Right.
exactly why. So you can kind of like have their back in like a soft way or like create space. If someone's like, well, I'm going to ask this person to work on this project. If you know what's going on, you can be like, maybe let's go to this person.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, just give them space,
Yeah.
right? And so it's more of like, it's almost more of a company culture thing,
Yeah.
which I know you get. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a huge, um, it's a huge area for us, and I think it's going to continue to be a huge area. It's evolving across all companies. Like it's getting better, I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so too. And if someone cares about their culture, they're going to care about the benefits. And if they care about the benefits, they're probably going to start to really care about their culture because there's so much overlap.
And again, it sounds cheesy, but like a lot of advisors, I know some of the good ones, they start the conversation, which like, tell me about your business or tell me about your culture, because then you can start to like build a benefit package that represents it. Because again, some company cultures is like, I just want to look better than Bob Co down the street, and I need like the cheapest price possible because we don't make a lot of profit. All right, well, it's a culture, right? You can build around that. Or if it's like, we have a diverse workforce, they're young, here's some things that we know that they're going through. Can we build a package around that? It's like a good advisor will lean into that side of it and then listen and build out a program that suits them.
If you were an advisor just starting out today, what would your first week look like building your book of business?
I've actually thought about that quite a bit. Um, again, it's probably a little bit biased because I'm like come from it, but I would take the flexible approach to everything. So I would kind of like use the HSA as a door opener, um, and basically reach out and just ask the question like, has anyone talked to you about this flex plan? Not saying like even like a myHSA flex plan, but like a flexible plan. I'd be super narrowed and super niche. So I'd go to um, like small to mid-size employers because I think those ones are easier to go after, especially with the kind of flex plan approach because they're not getting
Mhm.
talked to about it. The large groups, if you notice, like they'll all be on some sort of like modular um, gold, silver, bronze type plans. Like that's very common. But if you go downstream, there's a lot of white space, and I would have that conversation. So I would reach out. I still think a lot of people in our industry don't utilize LinkedIn and social media. Um, a funny joke, because then I agree with this, but Tim used to, because LinkedIn was just kind of like starting to become popular when we started, and we spammed everyone on LinkedIn. So I would almost use the same approach because it's not like there's way more people on LinkedIn, but you can literally get access to all the plan administrators, company owners. And if they were on LinkedIn, I would just say like, can I talk to you about flex plans?
Right.
And again, I want the answer to be like, what's a flex plan? And be like, let me show you.
Yeah.
Let me talk to you about it. That would be my approach if I started over. And then I would just do flex style plans, because again, there's lots of advisors doing insurance, fully insured plans,
Right.
or like the chamber plan's a chamber plan. It's there, it's got its place. So it would be going after all of the conversations that aren't being had, which I still think there's lots that aren't being had on flexible style plans.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to be just an HSA. There's a lot of different options you can do there. So yeah, as you can tell, I probably thought about it.
Well, and
That's
you
what-
guys had to do it the hard way, but you know what I learned the other day? And I was telling Mark about this. You can now go to ChatGPT and you can say, list the top 20 coolest companies in Canada and send me a link to their HR coordinator's LinkedIn.
Oh, it's just
And
gives
it will
you
just,
a-
it'll give you, and I picked the coolest ones because I actually just want to follow Canadian companies.
Yeah.
I'm not out there doing
yeah.
what you guys had to do. But that's something that advisors could be utilizing now is AI to track down the LinkedIn of people who are important in the space. And you guys had to do it the hard way back then.
Yeah.
It's
It's
how did
very
you do that?
true.
How did you know who to add and message?
We would
anyone?
just, it would, and again, it's probably like the LinkedIn algorithm, probably once we started that momentum, it probably caught on and was feeding us advisors. But because we didn't know how many advisors were actually out there in Canada, we didn't think there was as many as we've gotten, and as many now that we know that are out there. So we just kept kind of like on LinkedIn, and we were super active. Like, so we were posting our thoughts, engaging with people, reaching out to people. And it was just like, oh, you just stumble upon another one, another one, another one. And the other cool thing about being in an industry where, again, a new advisor probably could leverage this as well too, is if you did really good, say, inside of a engineering association of Alberta, you do a good job with 3 of the companies, they start to talk.
Right.
And so that's what we found is like we were doing our LinkedIn social media stuff, and then inbound started to come, and now we know how much inbound we get. And it's through the roof. So like that, it will organically happen too.
Yeah.
So I would be super niched, go at it, the market a little bit different, stay in my lane, and then like go after people on LinkedIn.
Yeah. LinkedIn is super underrated.
And don't be like, because again, we've all seen the LinkedIn spam.
Yeah.
Like, be honest, genuine, do some research before you start reaching out to people. Because that was the other thing we would do that we've talked about is like, if an advisor contacted me, we for sure made sure that we looked at their profile first, because we wanted them to know we looked at it. So it was like kind of a weird thing before, where people were like, oh, I don't want them to know I'm looking at their profile, it's the opposite.
Mhm.
I want them to know that I've looked at their profile, so I can be like, oh, you're in Burnaby minor hockey. Like, I'm in minor
Exactly.
hockey.
Like,
How old are
bet
your
on something
kids?
real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would use that as like, or we have a mutual connection now. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, how do you know Jen Kirby from Vital? Like,
Yeah.
I've got,
Shout out number 2.
yeah. Sorry, I love Jen Kirby. Yeah.
That's all.
Like, so there's all these things that it just takes like a little bit of like
Yeah.
genuine curiosity, I guess that would be, which I still think would pay off in spades.
Nothing is worse than getting a LinkedIn message and you can tell they didn't do any research. Like, I get them and it will be like, Danielle, do you have a problem trying to find AI to work for you? I'm like, I solved that problem 3 years ago. And if you had looked at my profile for 30 seconds, you would
Totally.
see that this is my obsession. But you didn't even look at my profile.
Yeah. And like the activities and interests, like we could nerd out on this stuff all the time.
Oh,
but-
yeah.
And I know you do it. Like anyone I meet in the world, I'm like, it's like an old habit now. So like, that's the other thing that we used to do is like, I'm listening to a speaker or I'm in a meeting with people I don't know. during the meeting still, and this is a myHSA thing, I was like, add to LinkedIn, add to LinkedIn, add to LinkedIn. So it's fresh. And then you're just kind of like collecting and collecting. Then when you post stuff, your audience is getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
Um,
And you never know who it's reaching, because just because you added this guy, if he looks at your post and likes it or reacts to it or anything, then his whole network sees it. And you don't know how many entrepreneurs or whoever are in his network
exactly.
that are seeing that he liked this. So it's super underrated. People need to get on LinkedIn. It's my favorite.
Yeah, and we were not like, in full disclosure, like this was not a strategy. We had no idea what we were doing. So like, but we used to get it all the time where advisors would sign up and they're like, I don't remember how we got connected.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's like, well, probably as one of the 15 posts connection, like you'll never nail that down, but it was like just the mass activity. We always are like, how did we connect? And it's like a referral, was it LinkedIn? Was it, which we're like, oh, we like perfect. They don't know how because we're everywhere
Yeah.
type
Yeah.
thing.
Exactly. And your names get out there. Like you're on LinkedIn and you post about this or that. And then they come to look. And even if you didn't post, I find, about an HSA or benefits at all, I'll post about mountain biking. And someone who loves mountain biking will come to my page and then they'll be like, oh, actually, I have a company. I sell bikes, but I have a company and I have employees and I need benefits.
It's a really good point too, because people think they need to keep LinkedIn professional,
Mm.
where the opposite, I know, like even you share a lot on Spill the Tea. And it's a lot like it's a mix, right? Like there's personal, here's what you're thinking, here's what you're seeing.
Yeah.
Um, and it's awesome. Yeah, you're making me think I gotta get back on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn is so much fun. Do you watch The Office?
My kids watched all the Office.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Do you know the episode where Dwight is saying why he's such a good salesperson? And then he says, I'll tell you what your needs are and then I will meet them.
Yeah, yeah.
My question for you, because that is kind of true to sales, is if you're talking to a client and they have no idea what they need for benefits, they have no idea, or they think they have an idea, but you know what they need, how do you tell them what their needs are and then meet them?
So I find like, again, the curiosity and like good questions will lead you there. So like, again, if you're talking to someone, and you've seen this too, where you can tell they don't know what they need to offer. And good questionings will kind of like bring that up front. And then you can like, again, I've said this multiple times in the industry, like the title is advisor. Like at some point you are allowed to advise them on what you think. They don't have to agree with it or go with it. But again, like when I think of my tax advisor or a lawyer, like I'm actually looking for, I'm paying them for advice. So I actually need their expertise. This is no different, but you don't want to, you got to kind of like get there in a way.
Yeah.
So that you're like, okay, can I make a suggestion? Could I benchmark to your industry to tell you, like, then we can show you what like industry benchmark is. And then we can decide what's kind of like comfortable for you
Yeah.
on amounts and plan design and stuff like that. But I actually think advisors do a disservice when they don't actually advise the client.
Hmm.
And again, we've said that multiple times in this office where it's like, no, you're the advisor, like
Yeah.
advise.
Yeah.
Like it's okay. The doors, especially if the door's open.
I'm glad I asked that question.
Oh,
That was a good answer.
yeah. It's funny because you're bringing up things that like, again, a lot of these things, it's like things that we've talked about over the years and years and years, but you don't think about it
Yeah.
until you're kind of like,
Yeah.
sit down in this format.
What is the biggest thing you learned from your career?
The biggest thing I've learned, again, I'm trying not to sound like a total loser, but it's like the importance of culture. Um,
Why would that make you sound like a loser?
well, just because I've talked about it, and it's like, it sounds like kind of like, what's that saying? Culture eats strategy every day of the week.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
I guess if it's if it's like a meme or stuff, it's probably true. But that's probably the biggest thing that I wouldn't have thought when I first started a business. Um, Again, though, too, to Tim's credit, I came from I was an employee for Tim. So that company before had similar culture. It was very different, but it was similar culture. So we essentially were recreating, to a lesser extent, or our starting point was that type of culture. Um, but I think my HSA was able to grow and thrive on the culture that was created more than any other. Like, the platform's super important, the technology's super important, like, you have to nail all those things, but it's the culture that kind of, like, has let it get to where it's going, and then to be able to take it from where is now to where it's gonna go in the future is, like, culture, right? Because it's, like, everyone still shares the same culture, even if it's not necessarily, like, Tim and I promoting it, but it's because the the foundation of employees that are all basically still here are living and breathing that same culture and then bringing it forward. So it, like, hasn't really changed a lot. Um, so definitely, like, I'll do I'll preach culture every day of the week, but it's also probably the hardest thing to do because, like, you have to manage culture. So, like, it's up to that person to manage culture. It's not something you can just kind of, like, put on the wall. Like, you got to live and breathe it. And that's hard. That's super hard. But you need passionate leaders. That's why I think. Yeah.
Do you know that Tim's answer was almost identical
I
in the
listened
other
to it. I don't
podcast?
remember that.
He spoke about how culture needs to be built. It's homegrown, like your new leadership comes up in the same culture and it will carry it forward. And that's how that culture has to be your strategy, really,
Yeah.
because you can have everything else be perfect. But if the culture isn't there, then there's not the people that want to drive it forward.
Well, and, like, hearing that now, I'm like, you shouldn't really be surprised because if you think about, like, again, this would be my first company I had started with Tim, but it wasn't his first company.
Right.
So, like, a lot of the things I've learned from Tim.
Yeah.
And also too, in hindsight, I was in his last company. So, like, there's a lot of employees there that have gone on to, like, leadership roles. And I can almost guarantee you a lot of it is, like, the culture he had built there. Um, and there's things that when I first started here that I wouldn't have agreed with Tim's approach. But now I'm like, oh no, he's so right. Like, fanatical about, like, getting back to people quick,
Mm-hmm.
answering questions really quick, picking up the phone when people call you. Like, again, these are things that, like, even when I was younger, I would have been like, they can wait till tomorrow. But, like, I'm starting to tell my kids that because for them, it's a huge advantage that a lot of, like, younger people are very, like, they don't want to pick up the phone and stuff like that, where we're saying this is, like, a huge advantage that you could totally capitalize on. And it's a lot of, like, Tim-isms.
Yeah.
Then again, I was like, I don't want to answer this email. And then Tim would be like, hey, I didn't see your reply. Why didn't you answer that email? And it's
Yeah.
like early on, and I'm like, you know what? It's better just to do it. And then I saw the value from it because you can go talk to anyone in the industry and they'll say, we were a disaster when we first started, but we were quick
Mm-hmm.
to be like, what's the problem? How do we fix it? Go fix it, rinse and repeat. That in actuality, it built, like, huge, almost like fans of my HSA
Mm-hmm.
that are still fans today because we've kept it going. Um, so yeah, I'm not actually, the more I think about it, I'm not overly surprised that Tim would have said the same thing because we basically have all learned from him.
Yeah. And I think it's just like the balls being passed.
Yeah,
Each person who comes up is like, this is working. Let's keep doing this.
yeah,
And then now it's just our company is growing. So the culture is growing with it. But it's those main like pillars are still.
yeah. And two, like, I think you guys, especially you, if you've kind of, like, codified the main cultures, which we were not really good at. We could live and breathe it. But as you're scaling now, how do you make sure that there's like, this is the culture, and we on-ramp 2 people in adjudication? How do they pick up on culture?
Yeah.
Because their job is very different than the 2 people we hire for like advisor sales type thing. Again, it has to be the same culture. Like
Yeah.
adjudication can operate different than sales and can operate different than customer service. And that's what you guys have done, is basically like included the culture in the training and onboarding.
Yep, you just hit the nail on the head. The hardest part, I would say, of my job now is when I was at my HSA, if I was having a bad day, all I had to do is look up and meet your eyes or Tim's eyes, and one of you guys would know, even if I hadn't said anything, that I was having a bad day. And now there's myself with this person, a couple of middle
Yeah.
managers, and that end frontline person, and I can't see them and they're remote or they're not in that day. And being able to still have that level of connection that picks up on someone is having a bad day. How do we make sure that even from across the country, we're making sure
Yeah.
that our eyes meet? And that's something that's the hardest part of my job
Oh,
at this point.
yeah.
But
I'm curious, what's your, like, what, again, you're newer in the career, I guess that would be, but like, what's the biggest thing you've learned so far?
oh man. Mm, that it's not about me,
Hmm.
which is interesting because I think that a lot of times I'm so loud on LinkedIn. I'm pretty loud at the office
Yeah.
too. I have lots of big ideas and I'm not afraid to share them and stuff. And a lot of people will kind of put that back on me and they'll say, "Oh, Danielle should do this," or "Danielle, I want Danielle's eyes on this," and things like that. And I'm constantly like trying to remind people that it's actually not about me. It's
Yeah.
not about my eyes being on anything. They need to trust themselves the same way that I kind of did, if that makes sense. Like, managers coming to me and saying like, "How would you have handled this?" And I ask them how they'd handle it, and it's probably identical, so they're probably good.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So I guess the biggest thing that I've learned is that now that I've experienced the room to grow my career, I want other people to have that same runway without any micromanaging or meddling because I know they'll get there as well.
Yeah. It makes me happy to hear that you, because again, that scales, right? Because the biggest thing that you look for as a leader is for someone else, especially in our culture, which you would agree, it's like we're not micromanaging. So it's like we want that person to bring the solution.
Yeah.
And then we can advise them to be like, "Oh, I like that solution," or "What about this? What about that?" And then they turn around, they've come up with the solution, and they leave that meeting going, "Oh, I'm empowered to go now execute the solution."
Yeah.
And then if it goes great, it's claps all around.
Yeah.
It's cheering in success. But even if it doesn't go good, it's like, we gotta try some stuff anyways.
Yeah.
Like that's the other
That's
thing that,
time.
yeah, like I think, like the running joke that we always had, especially with you guys, is we're like, because again, people look to leaders sometime and say, "Should I do this or that?" Where in reality, like, I've never done this either. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm at the same stage with my HSA that you're at in the scale.
Yeah.
I don't know the best way to scale.
Yeah.
So let's just try some stuff. And like that freedom, it's like there's, again, and you've built a business that it's not going to go under. No one's dying here. Let's try some stuff. That's like fun. Like that's like, and then if it works, awesome.
Yeah.
Like everyone wins type thing. So it's like that, you being able to like realize that, it scales way better.
It scales way better, and I always think there's value in so, like, Haley and I had this conversation when she was hiring, someone to help with the website, I think, and she kind of came to me and said, "Well, what if I hire someone and we spend all this money on them, and then we find out they're, like, not very good?" And I'm like, "So what? You had the experience of hiring a website developer, going through the process with them, and finding out they're not very good. That's good experience for you. There's value in that experience."
Totally.
And I think that you and Tim also had that kind of outlook. When I came with the idea of bringing in AI, I think that you guys were kind of like, "Oh, our whole shtick is
Yeah, it's
that
like
we are
people
human,
yeah.
but let's explore it." And to this very day, like even now, when I have conversations with you two, especially Tim, he'll say, "I don't like all your ideas, but I'm not going to stop you from
Yeah.
doing them anyways. I'm not going to say no."
Yeah.
I wouldn't do them, but I'm not going to stop you. And
Oh.
so I always try to continue that, as scary as it can be sometimes.
Yeah, and I think that's where like we said with like openness with employees, it's like go try and we'll catch you if you fall type thing.
Yeah.
Like it's that's the approach.
Yeah.
And again, why not like
Yeah.
like how is anyone supposed to learn anything? And like and I do find that I think a lot of times if people are projecting that they know the answers to everything, it's bullshit.
Yeah.
Because like
You can't.
no, and like what fun is it if you're sitting on top of all the decisions? Like to us, like the fun part is like seeing other people grow into roles, especially at myHSA, we've seen it for how we hire, because we don't usually hire from the industry. We don't necessarily look for a ton of experience because we actually want them to like start here and grow and expand. And that's probably been the most fulfilling part for me. And I'm sure, I know you're the same way. So it's like, if someone's sitting there saying that they have all the answers, they're probably bullshitting.
They don't. Yeah, they don't. It's almost like a good thing if someone says, I don't know. It's like, you're smart. You don't.
Yeah.
You're going to go and think about that and come back later. But
Yeah, it doesn't mean you're off the hook. We still need a solution.
Yeah.
But like, it's genuine, it's honest, and like that I can work with.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like, well, I don't know the answer either. So we got to come up with something.
Yeah.
There's 3 or 4 of us. We're all pretty smart. Like someone come up with an idea, and then if we're all like, yeah, that one looks good, then go chase it.
Yeah.
And then you're there to catch them if they fall.
Well, thanks so much for joining us today, Steve. This was an awesome conversation. We dove into so much more than I was expecting to, and we really appreciate it.
Well, I love you guys. I love myHSA. I'll do this any day of the week.
Awesome. Okay. Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Do it again. Thanks again for listening today. This conversation with Steve ended up going way deeper than planned. Not just about the early decisions that shaped where we are today, but about culture, leadership, and what actually moves the needle in this industry. And his advice for advisors was clear. Show up on LinkedIn, get creative with spending accounts, and focus on what your client truly needs. If this episode landed for you, feel free to share it and connect with me on LinkedIn for more conversations like this. And you can learn more about what we do at getmyhsa.com. See you next time on Beyond the Plan.